And good Wednesday morning. I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for joining us with Tamara Scott's Truth for Our Time. We give you news that you can use, often the news that you don't get anywhere else. You don't hear it in the mainstream media, which, by the way, it just seems to have turned in more to what are those news that come on in Iowa at 6:30 right after the regular news are these entertainment news shows, and it seems like the actual news broadcasts are now taking their headlines from those shows rather than what's happening. I don't know if we even have investigative journalism anymore outside of bloggers and those who are on their own websites seeking information. So we give you information. Here's the deal. If God's expecting you to live through it, he's directed you how to do it. And so we discuss that. Anything is game on this show. So thanks for popping in today. I have to admit, I have been out of the loop. I have been at a conference. Often as I attend these conferences, whether out of state or in state, it is often away from my husband. And this last conference got to attend with my husband. What a treat to get to learn together and be a part of something together. And it was just a wonderful time of information. So my guest today is Lynne Taylor. And if you're familiar at all with the Common Core battle, you know the name Lynne Taylor. You also know her as @CommonCoreDiva. So today, if you don't know anything about Common Core, glad you're here because you need to. Whether you've got kids in school or not, it will affect you. It will impact you and the future of this country. So glad you're here, and it's a great show to jump in on because I will be just talking through things as if I don't know it myself since I've been out of the loop as well. So appreciate Lynne coming on to join us. But I just a couple things I want to say to you today. I don't usually do this. I don't usually read scripture. Often we have this show ready so that it can go to a secular audience or that it can go to a Christian audience or anybody who wants to listen. But I am going to read a scripture today. I hope that doesn't offend you. If it offends you, you ought to go back and read some of our history in our country because these scriptures are what made our country so great, by the way. The fact that our founding fathers knew them and stood on them and relied on them for guidance. And so if you don't know that, you really need to go back and just, read George Washington's inaugural address where he had his hand on the Bible as he took his oath. And the Bible was open to Deuteronomy 28, a great chapter for all of us to read when we're wondering what's happening in America and what hope that we have. It's all right there in Deuteronomy 28. Our first commander-in-chief knew it, and he had his hand on it when he took the pledge, the oath, to lead this country. Oh, but if we had leaders like that today. So the verse that I have just kind of opened up to it in my study today, Isaiah 41:10. So don't worry, because I'm with you. Don't be afraid, because I am your God. I will make you strong and will help you. I will support you with my right hand that saves you. Don't be afraid. Don't worry. But that doesn't mean don't work. And too often, those of us who do have a faith will say, oh, God's got it in control. I've read the end of the book and he wins. That may be true, but that doesn't say where you'll be in that book or what that means for you. Remember Esther. People always like to quote the book of Esther for such a time as this. It wasn't just that she was there. It was that she took the action necessary while there in the palace, took risk of her own life because Mordecai warned her, if you don't, help may come, but it will be too late for your people. That's where we're at today in so many areas, so many issues, in this wonderful, great country of America, but around the world as well. People need to rise up in their countries and stand for righteousness and hold elected officials accountable. We're blessed in America that we are the dictator. We are the king. We are the ruler. We the people. It's who we elect. It's what we allow. And if you don't like what's happening in Washington, I hate to tell you this, but it's your fault. You have allowed it. We have elected it, and we are the only ones who can correct it. They will not. It must come from us. Well, I didn't mean to take off on that little tirade, Ryan, but I think it's pretty good information if I say so myself. Ryan Northfield is my producer, and always good to make us shine on time, even when I am throwing things at him at the last minute. So I appreciate his work as well. Let's go to the phone line with Lynne Taylor. Lynne, thank you for popping in today.
Oh, thank you, Tamara. Wonderful message. Wonderful start off. Wow.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. Well, you, like myself, probably get up early in the morning and head through some of these headlines that hit your inbox. I was telling Ryan, I have, I think, 35,000 messages in my inbox. I have got to get caught up at some point. But
oh, my goodness.
I was reading one from just 2 days, May 23rd. Ensenada, some parents in Ensenada Union School District are blasting the district's decision to spend roughly $189,000 on a 3-year pilot program that would require facial recognition software to be installed on some school-issue iPads. The software will use biometric technology. We warned our people of this 2 to 3 years ago when we first started talking about Common Core. People would say to me, oh, don't talk about that. That's the tinfoil stuff. You're going to discredit us. Don't go there. Well, here it is. Scans the face of the student for every 60 seconds, automatically logs him or her into multiple programs. Officials say the technology could make iPad use easier for elementary school students who can't remember their passwords and who would keep others from using the devices should they be stolen. Such features aren't unusual. Android smartphones have utilized this facial recognition for years. The difference is it's voluntary, and your education doesn't rely on it. You can choose whether or not you want to use that smartphone, that Android. Parents are saying it's too expensive and that it raises privacy concerns. It's creepy to take a photograph of a kid every 60 seconds, said Gil Sadie, who has a 3rd grade son at Flora Vista Elementary. I don't trust them. I don't want these roving cameras in my house. Excellent point, because whatever's in the background will be seen on that camera. It's a mama bear's instinct to protect her child. You don't just know who has access to scan these faces, says another parent, Darcy Brandon. Where's the data being stored? Where will it go? The pilot program would start with 100 students, and if successful, the technology would ultimately be added to all district iPads. Parents must opt in to have their child use the biometrics, which I think is excellent for once. Excuse me, it's not an opt-out, it's an opt-in, which I do like that. But again, the amount of money going into this, the privacy issues, the district has put these iPads into the hands of its 5,400 students at a cost of $2.7 million. Oh my goodness. Information will be sent out before anything is implemented district-wide, the notice said. The goals of this project are to provide single sign-on capability as well as protection for student data. Well, we have other stories this week about data being released. Actually, one of the first things I saw on the headlines this morning was the data card, the entry of folks' credit cards. When you get the email that says you have been hacked, they warned not to click on the link itself because it was a hacking website. Once we know once information is online, it is at risk. That's all we need to say. And who will have those photos of our kids? Who all will have this personal information about our children? Lynn, we were going to talk about the HR5, the education bill. But I just wanted to keep people up to date on that before we headed into our discussion. Any thoughts on that particular note?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that particular aspect of it up. Biometrics, yes, is interwoven into Common Core. It's also woven in not just in these opt-in or opt-out programs, but through the assessments. And one of the things that people may or may not know about HR5, it's gone through several name changes, and every time that it comes up, it's got a new name. Well, now it's called the Every Child Achieves Act. And we all know that Senator Alexander, who used to be with the Department of Education, is the one of the key people behind this particular rewrite. He's also going to be tackling the HEA, which is the Higher Education Act, as well. Both of these bills are up for reauthorization. And what is so dangerous about this is because you have someone who used to work at the U.S. Department of Education, who's rewriting both the ESEA, which is the Elementary Secondary Education Act of 1965, which, as we know, morphed into No Child Left Behind, which, of course, paved the way for Common Core. And now we've got this one person over not just the elementary, secondary, but over wanting to rewrite the Higher Education Act as well. That's very dangerous when you have one person who is going to be interweaving the same things, embedding more Common Core, embedding more career pathways, embedding all kinds of things in these bills. And the thing that really is noteworthy is you also have a couple of amendments from other people who are attaching on to HR5. One of them is the Vitter bill. It's supposed to be about student privacy. You also have one from Senator Tester, which is supposed to be about lessening assessments. And one of the things that I've noticed in looking at each one of these is that on the surface, everything looks wonderful. Oh, yes, HR5 is supposed to give the states back their right over education. Well, excuse me, if people would read the Constitution, they would know that the states don't have to take back what is already theirs. The states were given the authority over things the federal government didn't have in the Constitution, and education is one of those. All right, if you look over at the privacy bill, on the surface, it's supposed to be able to protect your students' data, but there has been evidence that has surfaced over the many, many legal violations that even that bill will hand each citizen. And then you have the Tester bill, which says, oh, yes, we're going to lessen all these high-stake assessments. We're going to switch over to grade band testing. But if you look at the language of it, it's going to allow the policies and the regulations that center around these high-stake assessments to continue. So we, as the citizens, you were exactly right when you said we have got to learn. We've got to speak up. We've got to fight back because we're being so distracted and so taken in by, on the surface, this is the good I have you, but then a good I have for you, but then underneath it, it's more of the same dig into education reform that just takes our children from us.
It absolutely does. And let's go back to Senator Tester. Tester, which is somewhat confusing because we're talking about testing. But
I
Tester,
know. I wonder if that was a purposeful wordplay. But oh well, that's just me.
Senator Tester is his name, from Montana. Now, I always think of Montana as this wonderful state of independently minded folks who are, often separated geographically by great miles. So they're independent and self-sufficient and certainly don't need the government coming in, stepping over them. So the fact that this amendment or this bill is coming from Senator Tester is a surprise because, as you say, and folks, I'm at CommonCoreDiva.wordpress.com. CommonCoreDiva is Lynne Taylor. And Lynne, I just have to commend you, the work that you do. We are so blessed between, Donna Garner, Alice Linehan, you, Terry Sassville, Ann Gozel. I'm gonna forget people now and get myself in trouble. But we have Gretchen Logue, Joy Pullman, Jane Robbins. But the folks who are writing about Common Core every day, updating us on new information. We wouldn't know about this battle, as I said early on. It's not like the mainstream media is ever going to talk about this. So my hat's off to you and the others who are taking time to write about this so the rest of us can just read the headlines and the summarized information that you have scoured and researched to find. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Senator Tester, so as I say, this Montana guy he's made it clear, according to your article, that he believes in President Obama's government-mandated education curriculum and that D.C. bureaucrats know what's best for our students rather than Montana families. Does that not shock you?
Oh, well, I'd like to say that it shocks me, but honestly, I've been researching into the push for national standards since 2009, and I'm sad to say that it really takes a lot to shock me anymore because it's just been, it's more like you've got to be kidding me than it is a shock because it's like you would think that someone, especially a former teacher, would recognize a federal overreach, would know that, I'm sorry, this is not right, this is not legal, this should not be happening. But time and time again, we're seeing this pop up in our legislation, and it's like we've got to talk about it. So thank you so much for having that avenue where people like myself can get the word out, because we've just got to.
Well, and I'm putting this link on the Facebook page, Stop Common Core in Iowa. I will also put it on the Facebook page, Truth for Our Time, which is the subtitle of this show, Truth for Our Time. So, folks, if you want to see what Lynne has gathered for you, and this is testers from his website, tester.senate.gov, on how he wants to overhaul No Child Left Behind. And so, Lynne, would it be fair to just say that, Lynne Taylor gives us a warning about this?
Well, yeah, if you want to go there, I will have to give credit to the person who tipped me off. And let me tell you how they tipped me off, because this was what is a little confusing sometimes for those of us who do research, who do write, and who do get to speak out. Sometimes I've had people who just fire back at me and they're mad as a wet hen. Sometimes they're just, oh, wow, you've opened my eyes. But this particular reader never came out and said, I'm for this, I'm against this, but here's something I think you need to sign. And it was the Network for Public Education's website. They have a online statement where you can read it, you can fill in all your information in support for this tester bill. And again, if you're not taking the time to go beyond the headline, you're going to see, assessment bill that would help lessen the load for my child. Ooh, good. You're going to see a big name organization over here. Okay, wow, well, if this bandwagon is going for it, then maybe I should too. But, this is the thing about the Common Core machine, as I call it. There are so many spin cycles out there in this machine that will take something like this that is a wolf in sheep's clothing, just like the Vitter bill, just like the HR5, just like the HEA, and they will put such a positive spin on it that when someone like myself gives you the research, you're going to look at me and you're going to go, well, what dope is she smoking? This couldn't possibly be what's going on, but yet it's proving out. If it weren't, then people who've been at this for a lot longer than I have wouldn't keep going, hey, you're on the right track. So,
Okay, I'm coming back onto your, I'm also sending a link. Ryan, I'm going to send this link to you right now of Lamar Alexander from the 1998 Governor's Conference. So maybe by I better shut my volume off myself. On the next link, maybe we can play that, because Lynne, you've seen that of 1998 Lamar Alexander speaking at the Governor's Conference.
It's been a long time now. I do know he was just speaking for the Brookings Institute, which is all caught up into Common Core as well. But you might want to have this link as well, and I can send this to you. Anita Hogue has done a fabulous job of giving you a visual graphic of how the Vitter Student Privacy Bill, which does tie into this biometrics and assessments and all this kind of stuff, how it's not really all that it's cracked up to be. And I will be sure and send that link to you. She has got it titled, let's see here, it's called Why Senator Vitter's Act is a Vitter No Privacy Act. And she will give you what's the true protection and what's the false protection. And I don't know if you got to listen to her interview on Alice Linehan's show, but it was absolutely eye-opening, the number of legal violations that she was saying that this bill actually does. If you look at Chester's bill, it's not really going to violate federal law like the Vitter bill will, or state law like the Vitter bill will. But if it's going to continue our already entrenched state laws of over assessing our children or these high stakes assessments, why in the world would we want more of that?
Right. And I don't have it in front of me. I think it was a Politico, with Lamar Alexander, as if he were trying to reform the testing and squelch the number of nationalized tests. But in that bill, it noted that Oklahoma, I think first graders were taking 72 days of testing.
Yeah, I think if we look at each of the states, and this is where I think the feds really want to try to have us do their dirty work for them, because it's like with the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act. Well, the feds know that you cannot mandate a national data system, but if I get the states to do it for me,
right.
Oh wow, look, it's already connected. Well, the student longitudinal database, same stupid thing. And where we need to try and connect HR5, HEA to the workforce investment is because, as I shared last week on Alice's show, because you have the same person who is rewriting HR5 in HEA, don't think for a moment that the same things that are started in HR5 for the elementary and secondary kids will morph over into when they go and graduate from high school, or like you and I, if we work to go back into the secondary post-secondary education. It's going to slam us too. It won't matter what educational background you're from. If you didn't have Common Core, say K through 12, but you graduate, you go to post-secondary school, and that's where it's going to be woven in with the Higher Education Act. Now, the Higher Education Act is being sold as something that, oh, yes, it'll lighten the student debt load. Well, what parent is not going to want to hear that? But
right.
Again, look at what else is being said. But as I shared on Alice's show last week, the connector not only is Mr. Alexander or the same implementations that will start in elementary and secondary and then switch over to post-secondary, but it's the goal. Let's not forget what the goal is. The goal is a trained workforce, which the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act will seal.
And give that to us again. The workforce.
It's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act of 2014. I wrote 2 articles about it. PreventCommonCore.com. You can go there and just type in workforce. And I can tell you that one of the people who was speaking at the webinar that I feature on the first article was bragging to the audience, which included some very high-level people in Washington, how the WIOA, as it's called, embeds career pathways, which, if you'll notice, they're starting earlier and earlier in our elementary and secondary schools. It's absolutely in our post-secondary schools, but it was how these career clusters, career pathways are embedded 21 different ways in that WIOA of 2014. Now, why, if something is so good, do we have to find 21 different ways to make sure you get it? Why not? Yeah, why not just state it once? This is it, and be done with it.
And
they're covering their backside, exactly.
The thing, even if we called it a workforce innovation and opportunity, here's what parents need to understand, and every voter out there, any bill today, the title of the bill is usually the opposite of what it does. And I think that's the same with this bill. But it's not just workforce development. This is what I would call a caste system. This will be defining what your child can and cannot or will not be allowed to do. And we know as adults, think this through. How many of you out there have a college degree and you know that the way it's set up in college, by the time you get to the classes that actually have anything to do with the degree or major area of study that you have chosen, you're in your 3rd and 4th year or maybe 5th. And then you've already invested too much time to change your mind, and you find out you don't like it. Now you're stuck. People end up in fields where they really have realized that's not where they wanted to be, but they've already invested too much time and money to change. How many of you know you're not working in the field of your degree? You're working in something far different. Let's look at the number of people who are doing different things, who have come upon different things, who have learned different things, and their giftings didn't surface until their 30s, 40s, or 50s. Why are we to assume in any way that a 1st, 2nd, 5th, 8th grader can decide at that point what they're doing for the rest of their life? And if that's the case, then why don't schools back off all of this sex ed that they cram down these kids' throats and the fact that you can't make decisions yet like a lifelong partner. You know, we don't want them getting married at a young age anymore, 21, 22, because they've got to figure out who they are. But that doesn't work in their workforce development and their giftings. The hypocrisy in the schools, if we just look, is prevalent and visible in most everything they do. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to continue on with Lynne's blog post on CommonCoreDiva at WordPress.com. But think it through. Think it through. They're going to pin your kids down as to what options they will have in their education, which will limit what options they have in their career path, depending on how they may or may not answer something in preschool, kindergarten, first grade, third grade, fifth grade, eighth grade. This is a caste system that we somehow never had to deal with in America, but now will suffer with in our public schools if we don't get this stopped. We need to thank our sponsors, Crave, Christians Reviving American Values Every Day, Christians for America. We thank them for partnering with us, making it possible for us to do this show. Webcast One Studios as well for making the studios available for us. This is our last show in this studio. We've heard that for a couple weeks, but this is the last one. And next week we'll be in the new studios. Be exciting to see what that looks like and how that goes. We'll be right back after these messages with Lynne Taylor, the Common Core Diva.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs,
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for joining us on Tamara Scott's Truth for Our Time. And the Wednesday of the week, the hump day of the week, discussing what's already taken place, what's going to be, while you still have something to do about it. If you're listening, you're hearing Lynne Taylor, who is the Common Core Diva, And one of the graphics we'll put up in just a minute where she reminds you in her blog to call your legislators at the federal level. I always try and have that in my head. Lynn, I don't know if you have that phone number. It's 202, is it 224-3121?
Hang on just a second, my dear. That is, let's see here, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. If you want Alexander's office, oh, absolutely, 202-224-4944.
So his is 4944. That's Alexander. That's Lamar Alexander. And I know that it's very helpful if you're from his state, a constituent, then they really sit up and pay attention. But if folks are not from his state, can they still call him?
You know, this bill is supposed to be nationwide, so I would say go for it. It's going to impact you no matter whether you live in Tennessee or you don't, because this is federal legislation.
And if you don't know your legislators, your senator's phone number, again, I think it is, was it 224 or 244, Lynn?
Hang on just a second. It's 224.
224. Okay, so the switchboard, I think, is 202-224-3121. I think I'm pretty right on that. And they'll give you any senator or any legislator that you want to talk to. Let's go to the video Ryan has up for us with Lamar Alexander. This is from 1998. I show this when I speak on Common Core, along with the Ernie Duncan video that is more current, to show folks, Lynn, as you know, we're working with people who self-identify as liberals, as Democrats, as progressive, as conservatives, as Republicans, because we've all decided the labels are not as important as our children.
Right.
And so I show this video along with the other one to show that this is not just one party or the other. Though I am admittedly Republican, our own party, though the Republican National Committee has signed resolutions to fight Common Core, to fight the advanced placement history exams, the inaccuracies, the non-transparency that's no longer, the transparency that's no longer there. So we do have some movement on it in the Republican Party. We still have issues where we can improve, and that is what we're about in the Republican Party. We're not about worshiping people. We're about principles, standing right on principle. So let's go ahead and play this video of Lamar Alexander from 1998.
As far as I know, the first state summit following the president's summit, and I think that's a great credit to your governor and to the state of Kansas to be doing that. At least your timing's good. And I would suggest three things. Number one, find out what's really going on, because I don't think most people know what's going on in schools, how children are growing up, or what's really going on in the world. Number two, I want to suggest that you create in Kansas a brand new American school. Brand new American school. And number three, I want to suggest that when you do that, you help that new school develop some new goals and new report cards for itself. I would go down to the maternity ward of the local hospital, or whatever you call the part of the hospital where the nurses are, who are there when the babies are born, and find out how many babies are born out of wedlock, how many babies are born with single parents, just so you know that. I would think the brand new American school would be year-round, open from 6 to 6. Second characteristic might be that these schools will serve children from age 3 months old to age 18. That may be a shocking thought to you, but if you were to do an inventory of every baby in your community and think about what the needs of those babies were for the next 4 or 5 years, you might see that those needs might not be served any other way. They have to be served in some way, and maybe around the school. Or if you studied a little more, you might go back and think the school might even need to serve the pregnant mother of the baby in terms of prenatal health care. Teams of teachers. Albert Shanker suggested that maybe there ought to be a team of teachers attached to a child from the day that child arrives in the school to stay with that child all the way to the 8th grade. All this would mean there would have to be a very professional corps of teachers, wouldn't it?
All right, let's stop it there, Ryan. Thank you for having that available for us. Lynn, this is 1998. School, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Students, 3 months to 18 years. Team of teachers for each student. Students in the maternity ward. We're not even preventing anymore. We're not even worried about stopping some of this anymore. We're all about this governmental big brother handling of our young people. Where will parents be if this takes place? Where's the need for parents?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. But 1998, that is screaming every bit of the 21st century community learning centers that are so rich in the P20. If anyone is familiar with P21.org, Knowledge Works. Another one about not just 21st century community learning centers, but 21st century aligned entire communities. You've got a huge push out there for the places that used to be your school, but now they're this community learning center where all your services are going to be taken care of or offered there. And education as we know it is totally reformed, and that is happening right before our eyes. It's going through all kinds of avenues. And one of the dangers about Lamar Alexander's work with HR5 as well as with the HEA is that if you read the language, the power will increase not just from the Secretary of Education, who frankly needs no more power, to your local education agencies, and your state education agencies. And on one hand, more power to the locals and the state, yay, but look how entrenched with the federal money they are. Could they possibly be able to survive on their own without that federal money? No. They're not going to be able to. So what's actually going to be happening is that while it says, yes, we're going to get more control locally, you look at how little will be actually there. We can't let this survive.
I am posting this link right now on Truth for Our Time Facebook page, so folks can have that link if they would like it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how to warn parents. I don't know what more to say. I know people are busy. They don't want to deal with this. They don't want to believe it's true. They want to call us the tinfoil hat folks. Lynn, how do you wake up your neighbors? We get it. Those of us who are in the Stop Common Core community.
Right.
Well, how do you say to those folks who just have no idea and glumly sending their kids off to school every day to be taught that everything that made America strong is wrong, that capitalism's greedy, that the Constitution's outdated? What are you saying to those parents?
Well, I would say just, you've got to, you need to look at this. If you won't take it from me, take it from someone else. If you don't think my credibility is worth it, go look at someone else who has it in your eyes and listen to them. But yeah, the thing that really I would warn them about is while you're paying attention to K through 12, which is most definitely the HR5, don't forget or don't be so snookered in with HR5 that you forget that HEA is at your backside. Because remember, the same people who are rewriting HR5 are after HEA, the Higher Education Act. And we don't need to give them a back door to sneak in to get our kids. I don't care how old they are. We don't need to leave a back door for anyone to take us, because higher education does encompass not just our graduate students, those who've graduated high school or college, but it impacts us. If we wanted to go back to school to get a second degree or finish our first degree or whatever, we don't need to give leeway for this system of the haves, the have-nots to continue. Another thing that I would warn people about, look not only at the people who are behind these bills in Washington, but look at the number of public-private partnerships who have totally come in and ruined education. I do not go to a Fortune 500 company every single day and say, you're doing it all wrong. You need to do it my way. And my way is blah, 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 blah. But yet we are allowing those people to come to our schools and do this with our educational system. We're being told how broke our school systems are because, after all, if we don't have that public-private partnership, we won't have the money to send Johnny or Susie on this wild and wonderful educational opportunity. No, if your state is like my state, you do not have an education shortfall. You have an education fund mismanagement. We don't need public-private partnerships in our schools. Public-private partnerships in America were only designed to deal with infrastructure. That would be building the stupid school, not running it. And if you have any resources available, look at the number of teachers unions, look at the number of business roundtable, Chamber of Commerce groups, all these who have weighed in suddenly and are now educational experts. Some, yes, they are, some not so much, but everyone is weighing in on what our education should be. And quite frankly, Business Roundtable, Chamber of Commerce, they are making money off of Common Core, so of course they're going to back it in no matter what shape it comes in.
Explain that, because people don't understand the tie there with the Chamber of Commerce. How are they making money off of?
How are they making money? Well, okay. First of all, let me back up just a minute. Bill Gates has given the U.S. Chamber of Commerce millions of dollars to promote how wonderful Common Core, career tech, all this stuff is. So your U.S. level Chamber of Commerce has all this money. They're going to, okay, Tamara, they're going to come to Iowa and they're going to say, oh, yes, for your state level Chamber of Commerce, we have all this money. And for you to promote this agenda, here, you can do it this way, you can do it that way, you can do it through your local businesses. And it trickles down. You look at your local chambers of commerce, they receive some funding from state level. State level gets it from national level. So it's this wonderful chain reaction. But the thing about it is the businesses need workers.
Right.
And the rhetoric is, we don't have enough skilled workforce. Bull feathers, we do. It's just we're being told so many different mistruths. It's just not even funny when it comes to education, because it dovetails into workforce, it dovetails into the skills and all this other kind of stuff. The businesses need workers. I know you've heard that in the Common Core battle. We don't have enough trained workers. Stop me when you hear something you haven't heard, okay? My company is going to be able to make better profit. Therefore, my local economy will be better if I have the skilled workforce that I need. It just goes on and on. So this is how they are making the money, is that they're aligning the community so that the school teaches what that local business needs, not what I would need if I wanted to go branch out. Remember, when we were in school, we got a general education, and it served us no matter where we went.
Right.
We're not seeing this happen in education because
right.
The overall goal behind the 21st century communities, you won't need to go anywhere else.
Well, but you hit the nail on the head. Used to education gave you a foundation upon which you could then learn further in any area of study in life as you wished to do. We no longer have that ability. I think the education bubble will hopefully be the next bubble to burst. I'd stick the pin in it if I could, with the degrees that are costing so much more than their value. And little do they do. A lot of these college kids, as I said, aren't coming out in their area of study. Many of them are taking jobs that didn't require a 4-year degree and still shouldn't today. But go ahead.
Let me bring up one thing, okay, the flip side to that, all right? I've seen this happen firsthand. Yes, we have degrees that are absolutely overpriced and totally do not have what the degree should have in it. But look this goes back to the assessments with the work keys and the career planning and all this other kind of stuff. If you look at that entire aspect of it, we're going for a national certificate, my dear. A national certificate that if I don't have it, I cannot even go apply for a job. We're not talking mounds of money here. We're talking just a regular Joe Blow job. And if I don't have a national certificate, I can't get a job. It's happening already in some states where, and I have this on my blog as well, there was a video that the people who make the Work Keys assessment were using as a promotion. And this one company had the audacity to say, if you don't have this particular national accreditation, just don't even bother to show up to fill out an application because you won't be skilled enough. So now we've got not really expensive degrees, but we've got people just trying to get a job, or we've got higher education instructors and sometimes secondary instructors as well, but most definitely the post-secondary ones. They're being given titles like certified higher education teacher, and the piece of paper says, and I kid you not, so-and-so has completed 48 hours of coursework. Now, sweetheart, I don't know about you. I don't know about me. If all I had was 48 hours of credit hours of one course, I don't think that would truly qualify me to go stand in front of a post-secondary classroom and teach. But this is what is happening.
Honestly, I'm not sure I wouldn't like it better if these kids didn't have less of this 4-year, 5-year college indoctrination.
Oh no, I'm not. Please don't think that I'm saying
I know
that they must go through college. No, what I'm saying is if we're rubber stamping careers, if we're rubber stamping instructors, we are doing a total disservice to our education. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. All right, let's go back to your excellent article here, the Campaign for Student Testing Improvement, the Tester Act, a nationally recognized network for public education.
Yeah.
Some of these folks are given to us as featured as Common Core or Warriors Against the Common Core, but you're warning us to be careful.
Yeah.
And you have the common good in here. In 2007, I was asked to speak. I was listed among the Kingmakers of America, and I was asked to speak at a national conference for religious news writers. And I ended up on a panel, one with Mara Vanderslice, who was Carrie Edwards' Faith Coalition Director, and the other was Bern Strider, Hillary Clinton's faith coach. Throughout the day, Mara would talk about the common good. That was the phrase she picked up, the common good. And I'm now seeing that phrase used by Republicans and Democrats. It is a phrase that comes from socialism.
Absolutely. It's a buzzword. Buzz phrase, excuse me.
So here we have these leaders, you're saying some of whom are featured as anti-Common Core, but they're really not. You're warning us to be careful.
Right.
And you know what? I'm looking at the clock. I've got to go to break. We've got our last break we need to get in. When we come back, will you give us what to watch for on those warnings, and will you talk about this?
Absolutely.
Lynne Taylor is my guest. We're talking about Senator Vitters, Senator Lamar Alexander, Senator Tester, the HR5, and the HEA, Higher Education Act, again at the Senate, U.S. Senate. We think we get these defeated, and they come back, which should show you when they can get nothing done, why this keeps coming back and coming back, the push that is behind it, and all the more reason we need to be standing against it and warning and knowing what it stands, what's truly behind the bill itself. We'll be right back after these messages.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for staying tuned with us. We're talking with Lynne Taylor, CommonCoreDiva. You can find her at CommonCore on Twitter, CommonCoreDiva at WordPress.com. We're talking about her article on HR5 and HEA, the Higher Education Act. We were just talking about, the buzzwords, common good, buzzwords. And reading down further through her article, we're finding out we hear people who say they're against Common Core, and she has uncovered they may like portions of it. Lynn, why can't we like portions? I hear people say that, well, I like this part of it. What's the danger?
Okay, cut and dried simply, it doesn't matter what portion of Common Core it is based on a lie. It is not constitutionally binding. It is not constitutionally honoring. It has broken federal laws. And how can we as Americans say, I like any part of it, when it is so flagrantly flying in our faces and abusing our tax dollars and just desecrating everything that America stands for?
Right. The tenets and the liberties and the privacy that are embedded in our Constitution will be undone through Common Core. And so if somebody likes a portion of it, then why not implement that portion in your local schools at the local level so you have local control and you can change them, adapt them, remove them, repeal them, add to them, improve them as you wish. But if you do it through Common Core, you lose that ability. It'll have to go through the 45 or 48 other states in the Common Core. You will have no opportunity, literally, to change things because of that testing that will come through. And yes, you can teach 15% of the curriculum that's not on the test, but who will take time to teach 15% that is not going to be tested when evaluations and the defining of schools, the declaration of schools in need will be based off those tests, along with your children, their future as well. Lynn, anything I said in there untrue? Was that good?
No, that's good. The thing I would say, though, is we don't know what will be on these assessments. So how can you teach?
Yeah.
Yes, I understand. 85% must be Common Core. There's that 15% wiggle room, and the pro side wants to spin. Yeah, but you got 15%. Well, first of all, you ask any student, any teacher, they're too exhausted to even think about what they have to get through, let alone, oh, yeah, you got 15% more to play with. But because of the way the assessments are written, and this is one of the things we need to look at with this tester bill, if we're going to say, oh, yes, let's change over to grade span testing, and they get one shot in elementary, one shot in secondary, holy cow, what could possibly be on that assessment? And if you're going to say, well, yeah, we're going to go to grade span testing, but we're going to keep the regulations and the policies tied to these high-stakes assessments, again, you have no control over what's being tested. So if I can't teach to a test, how am I going to test well? And if I don't test well, how is my school going to keep the funding? And if my school doesn't keep the funding, where's my kid going to go to school? It is a vicious cycle that they are really ramping up so that we'll only, again, look at one part of it instead of the whole.
And perfect. That's going to take me right in. Ryan, can you find the graphic with the merry-go-round, the reform merry-go-round? Let's pop that up to perfect. No chance. At least we're getting somewhere. No change. At least we're getting somewhere on this reform as we go round and round and round with new titles, new promises, but it's the same old. And this is corporate reform. This is a corporate, actually people call it corporate corruption. Lynne, let's continue on. When you're talking about those buzzwords, while we need to know what we're dealing with, what we need to know really is behind it, what's embedded in the bill, because as you said, HR5 has been portrayed as the great equalizer in the federal versus state education claim. Vitter's bill is being presented as a great data protector. Tester's bill is being promoted as a super assessment savior. And yet, really,
don't forget, HEA is the great money saver.
Oh, right. Lightens the student debt loan.
Yeah.
Any truth in any of it?
No, they're not. None of them are going to be what they're cracked up to be. And don't just take my word for it. Look at the people who are uncovering it. Anita Hogue. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm going to do like you. I'm going to start forgetting people's names. But no, there are several people who have said, and this is one of the things that is being assumed, is that we're all so busy, we're not going to take time to read the legislation. But quite frankly, when you make a 1,000-page document, it's going to take someone who's really, A, got a lot of time, or B, a lot of dedication to read through a 1,000-page document to look at all this stuff. And this is where we need to, I think, and this would be something I would say to the parents. You know, I know life is busy. Oh, do I ever know life is busy? And yes, we have many hats that we have to wear. But if we don't start getting political, and I mean by looking at the legislation, not necessarily backing a candidate, if we don't start looking at the legislation, if we don't start looking at the things that are already in my state, for example, we're talking about the assessments. If you look like at for example, at my state, North Carolina, you look at the vast resources that are there that embed assessments or that train the teachers on how to assess and what we're going to do and where the data goes and so on and so forth. It's just like, oh, good gravy. This is horrible. And then Tester's bill is going to say, oh, yeah, we'll keep that. We'll just go to grade standing. You can't do it. You cannot have it be this way. If we're going to, and let me just state for the record, I am not saying there needs to be no education reform. I'm saying if we're going to do it, let's do it, first of all, where it's right, legally binding. It's not out to make corporate America fat, dumb, and happy. It honors our students. It honors our teachers. It doesn't penalize the taxpayer. And Common Core, Career Tech Ed, any of it, no matter what label it goes by, STEM, the rest of it, is not doing that at all.
Lynne Taylor has been my guest today. You can find Lynne at the CommonCoreDiva at WordPress.com. Lynne, is there any other way I should have them find you?
Well, if anybody's on Facebook and they need a new friend and they really don't mind my daily posts of, okay, here's where else you need to look, you can find me on Facebook. I am, oh goodness, I'm a member of just about every Common Core state group out there. So if you don't want to come personally like my page, you can find me on probably your state's anti-Common Core group. You know, it just, oh my goodness, we could go on and on, I know, my dear, but I know you've got to close, but I just want people to know Common Core is just one of those buzzwords.
Yes.
Get to know the buzzwords: career tech education, career clusters, career pathways, workforce investment, common good, STEM to STEAM, C3, which is the new Common Core aligned civics education, next generation science standards. All of these are more and more, kind of like would go with that merry-go-round that's in my article you've put up. It's just more and more of the same. And the people who are behind this want to wear us down, want to make us weary, and we've got to rise up. We've got to be patriots. We've got to be protectors.
Lynne Taylor, thank you so much. CommonCoreDiva.wordpress.com. You can find her on Twitter at CommonCoreDiva. Her words are absolutely correct. Do not get caught up in the merry-go-round yourself and the busyness of what they want you to do. These elections that are coming up, I am involved politically, and yet it bothers me to see this circus that starts so many years out, so many months ahead, because we don't talk. There's no such thing as investigative in journalism anymore. We don't talk about the real, true issues. And while we're busy looking at the parade of potential candidates and potential leaders going by, those who are already elected are killing us back in the state houses and at the federal level. You need to be paying attention. Don't allow them to get you distracted by all the other things, the pretty titles, the promising things that they say. You need to get in the bill. And if you can't, then find somebody like Lynne Taylor. Get on a Stop Common Core page. I'm sure on Facebook there's one for your state. No matter where you're at, there's likely a Stop Common Core page. There are several others as well. Do your research. These are your children. You are their advocate. They are the only thing that you can take, the only earthly treasure that you'll have in heaven with you, if you do your job well. And you can't get them there. They have to get there on their own. But making sure what they hear, what they know to be true, their worldview, is your obligation, and protecting them is your responsibility. Not just a right of liberty or freedom. It is your obligation to protect it and to protect your children by doing so. So we've given you some great information. The links are all on my Facebook page, either Truth for Our Time or Stop Common Core Iowa. And in a short order, I think we're going to have TamaraScott.com up and running, right, Ryan? You have done so much work on that, and I am so grateful to you for that. I skidded the whole way through, did not want my own website, did not want my name out there, was just trying to do a purpose, just trying to do a cause and get information out there. And I get it. A lot of you know me by my name, so I am slowly coming along as Ryan is getting all that up and going, and I so appreciate his work on that. We are out of time. We have passed our time, and we must run. But you've been given good information. Be encouraged and never be complacent.